Hey, are you thinking about building a custom home in North Idaho? Well, we've got you covered. In today's podcast, Dave and I sit down with Jon and Spencer from North Idaho Experience Custom Homes to talk about their experience. We're going to take the build process from framing on, talking about my own home that's under construction right now with them. And we're going to talk about some of the questions that come up frequently with these guys as they're having these builder meetings. We're going to talk about VA loans for new construction. Can you do it? Well, stick around and find out. We're going to talk about Canadians coming down here to build homes because that is a big question that's been coming up a lot lately. And the dangers of hiring a bad builder and some of the things that a good builder are going to help you with throughout the process. Lots of tons of great information in this podcast. Stick around to the end. And remember, if you guys are thinking about making the move here, give our real estate team a call. Whether it's right now or 12 months from now, doesn't matter. Shoot us a call. Let's get that conversation started because we specialize in helping conservative families find their freedom right here in North Idaho.
So before we get going too, we started this, we collaborated with you guys. Where are you guys at now in terms of builds and everything else that's happening? What's going on?
Give us the update.
Yeah, great question. Currently we have several builds going on, and actually I left the police department because building's taking off. So last Tuesday was my last day.
I was there. That was a great time, man.
20 years, bittersweet. Left on a high note. A lot of good brothers and sisters in blue that I left behind, but they can carry the mission forward.
He retired as a lieutenant, just saying.
And I will say, dude, I am like, for both of you guys, even though you were there before I got there, like I'm super appreciative that you guys are willing to put a lot of that faith too and working side by side with us. Because as I tell people, you guys are your own entity. You could go work with anybody else that you want. So the fact that you guys are here and the fact that you left PD after being a lieutenant, making what, $300K a year, $400K? What was it? I'm kidding. No, but the fact that you guys do that and you guys put a lot of trust and faith, you guys are willing to come on here is really cool. And that's one of the reasons why we like working with you.
That's a big deal.
We appreciate it. We did our homework though. We make sure, one, you guys have the grind in you. You guys are same morals and your compass truly aligns to the north. So it was a pretty easy decision. I had to make sure that it was safe financially before I left. And once you start to exceed that with government and try to manage both jobs, it's too much. Building runs in our family. I've always loved it. It's kind of cool to look back and actually, be able to say, hey, we built that structure and actually see something. It's more rewarding than different stuff that we've done in law enforcement. Not that law enforcement isn't rewarding. Saving lives and stuff is rewarding, but it's hard to look back and see some of that stuff. But also like it's not always the most family-friendly job for. Right. So I'm checking my own selfishness, and it's time to go into building. And building is just as fun, and I love it. And be able to help people in a different way is awesome.
And you achieved a lot. Spencer, you were a cop for 16?
Yeah.
16 years. Like you guys, you did your time. You know what I mean?
Well, you did it. You did an amazing.
Move on.
Yeah, you did an amazing thing with the cat team here too. We talked about it on the first time, and I hate giving you guys that much props, but you guys changed the face of Coeur d'Alene. People look at you know what? When you talk about real estate, people look at the property values right now and they go, "Man, this is a great community. It's clean. It's nice. There's no drugs. My property value tripled in 3 years." Like you can amount that to a lot of things, but one of the big things is the fact that you guys cleaned up a lot of dirt in this town. Over 4 or 5 years
where
together.
Eric would say, "You're welcome for my service."
Yeah, it's huge. That's huge.
It is
cool. It was cool to be part of, and it was good to be supported by administration.
John and I saw a lot of change in this town.
Yeah,
a lot of change when it came to the dynamics, what it looks like.
Yeah,
a lot. It does not look the same as it did 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago.
No, dude, if I said 3rd and Roosevelt or 15th and Penn, that means something different to you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
And now if you drive, I drove past one of those addresses the other day, and my wife and I were like, oh my gosh.
It's true.
That house is gone. Like there's no issues. Like it's amazing.
Oh wait, that was the one that was across the street from Rice? Yes. They tore that down, yeah.
Yeah, they tore it down.
Yeah, but it was definitely a crack house.
Anyways, I know we're talking about building, but I always want people to know too, people that are watching this, kind of your background and who you guys are, because man, you guys have changed the face of Coeur d'Alene. Okay. So when you talk about things that you can't see very well, you can see that a lot.
Yeah, and if you don't know out there, Spencer's brother is the chief prosecutor. That's the DA if you live in another state. And we just had him on the podcast talking about Judicial Watch, so check that one out as well. So it runs in your family.
It does.
Yeah. On the building side, so I wanted to take. We're still touching on it. So you guys got a few builds going right now. You've had a ton of meetings, and you've got a bunch of contracts coming up for the next year. You guys are going to be rocking.
Yeah. We have several builds going right now. We have the potential to probably do another 10 to 12, I think, starting in April. The build meetings are off the chart, which is one of the main reasons I left the police department, because I could not manage both. And I don't want our quality to ever sink. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Once you start, you have to keep your quality the same. You can't grow too fast, because I feel like that's what kills a lot of other builders. They grow too fast, they get greedy, and then your quality starts to sink or tank.
Yeah, that's everything.
You guys, the best parlay out of all of it is you guys talk about, our prior law enforcement experience and how, that follows morale, morals, and truly aligning your compass north with values in life. But the one thing that I would say that's most important, being on both sides, not only have I built for people, but having a house built for, is there's a lot of good builders in the area.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody that you can trust. Matter of fact, I would almost argue that during the build process, if they have good reviews, because most people are review guided now with their selection process, especially for a builder or whether they buy something. I'm a huge Google review guy. I think the main thing is you have to have trust, because the builder is going to be there 24/7 throughout the build. But you have to know that as a builder, they have your back along the way, because regardless of the build, hiccups come up, and you have to know that your builder has your back 100% of the way, as if they were building their own home.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys ran into a hiccup on the house out in Revelstoke. And I remember Spencer, because you're a freaking stud when it comes to managing these sites and everything else and seeing this stuff. And I remember you called me, and we just had those clients up here the other day.
Yeah.
Wife was like almost emotional. She's super excited about everything, right? And I asked him, I'm like, how did that area up top turn out? And they had to change the bathroom. They had to move some stuff. They couldn't really project how those beams are going to come out. And I told him, I said, Spencer was nervous about that, man. I said, he lost sleep over that because he wanted to make sure that this was right for you guys. And I'll tell you what, Aaron and Steve, they were like, it could not have turned out better. They're like, this is a better, the way that he changed it, the way that stuff got handled, he's like, we couldn't have asked for anything better. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Because I saw how stressed you were with that, because it's just little things that I know you want to turn out good for the client. Yeah. So they were the first people that we started with.
Yes.
I'll say
it's amazing.
I'll say when
The second.
Okay, whatever.
Okay. The second.
I'll say one of the most rewarding parts of building a home is when you finish and you hand the key over to the homeowner, and they're just excited because it's like welcome home, right?
Yeah.
You see their emotions. You usually see the wife. I've seen the husband cry. You
won't see me cry.
Yeah, I will. I do every day. Every day.
Also, that's in our contract that I hand over the keys. So we're clear.
To me? No.
Do we have like a 30-day clause where we can break the contract, right? And that's one of the most best parts for me, is all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into it as I go through the build process in each phase of the construction. Jon doesn't really get to see that part because he's doing, he's on the front end. He comes in, but yesterday when Steve and Aaron came in, they put the trust in us because they live in California. They come up every 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, a lot happens in a build. When she walks in, she walks into her master bedroom and she starts getting puddles in her eyes. She starts tearing up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And she gives me a big hug. And it's those moments where when people put their trust in you and you maintain your integrity and your quality, and you have the communication with me and Jon and them, and that it's rewarding.
Yeah.
It makes it worth it to make sure that every step as a builder that you're doing things right behind the scenes. The homeowner's not there. Later yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to another home that I built about 3 years ago. They came up from California, same scenario. They were gone the entire time. The Cabrera family. I walked in and I'm like, it's beautiful in here. And they're like, man, you're a man of your word through the process. We absolutely loved you. If you said you were going to do something, you did it. And they walking in that home years later it's pretty special to be able to actually have that relationship with the homeowners, where they're excited to see you. They want you to sit down at their island. They want to sit and talk with you and actually dig into your personal life. And they have a vested interest in you, but not just that, but that's their home that you built them, and they're happy with it.
Well, I think that's one of the parts that makes a lot of this work too, is because when we go out and we recommend somebody, and we tell people, hey, we can work with any builder.
Yeah.
But we're always going to pitch you guys because we want them to meet you. But it's hard, man. If you don't, ultimately, we have a tendency to send a lot of clients your way so they can get to meet you guys. And there's a lot that rides on that. I don't like sending people to certain builders in town. I'll work with them, but I don't like sending it because I can't validate that they're going to do a great job. In fact, I really feel like it's me and the client versus the builder. But when I send people to you guys, I think that's really important. I think a lot between you two, because you and I typically handle first build meetings and stuff and really talk to clients and honestly sell a lot of what you do,
Yes.
managing those. And that can be really shitty when Jon goes out and says that you're going to be a certain way and you don't. So that's why it works, which is pretty cool.
Well, you guys, I'm not a liar. I would never say that if I didn't have full faith in Spencer. But 20 years of friendship, police work, construction. When I built my own custom home, I used Spencer subs, knowing that they're on another job site. He'd already built this relationship where they're in another, they're literally working on another job site. And I said, hey, Spencer said I could call you. Another sub bailed on me, which happens a lot up here. And I think we should probably broach that topic when it comes.
We're going to.
Yep.
Spencer's loyalty with these subs, just honest, and it's just being a man of your word, paying your subs on time, making sure their work's within check, and keeping up with everything that's going on is key to a successful build. 3 different times throughout my build, me trying to manage my own general contracting for our personal build, I didn't have a sub to fulfill that, or a sub bailed on me, so I reached out to Spencer before we were partners. And his subs dropped everything, and they were there at 8 o'clock Monday morning ready to fix it. And that loyalty and that friendship is not built with a phone call. That's built with years of experience. I think years of experience and historical treatment, back and forth with reciprocity.
And expectations too. So they
100%.
know exactly what you're looking to build. And if they don't do it, then they're out.
I want to touch on one thing. We talked about one of the current builds up in Revelstoke. And I don't want it to seem like there's an error. We built the exact plans of what the client specified with their draftsman and architect. We were a little worried because the hill height up top wasn't something that we would put in our own personal home, but that's specifically what they asked for. So hill height with the bathroom changed the wall that the toilet sit on. So we were up there at midnight. We brought spotlights. We had our draftsman meet us up there and our framer, and we outlined this for our clients because we unequivocally clear with the entire build process. We presented it to them the next morning. The only reason we lost sleep is because the drafting of that laid out without knowing the hill height was known, but not knowing that if you stand up, the hill height is the height of the rafter in the upstairs. So how their house is laid out, there's a hill height, meaning that if you're up next to the wall, from the baseboard to that wall before it starts to cave up for the rafter height, you can go 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot hill height, but you got to remember that hill height is carried to the exterior of your home. So if you go extremely high, then your upstairs looks goofy. They wanted proportional balance. That gave them a 4.5 foot hill height. So when the toilet sits on that wall, you go to stand up, and I hate to say it, but we acted this out, because we want it to we for our clients. So
How far do you go acting it out?
He made me scroll TikTok while I was squatting.
So we're squatting up against this wall, standing up, and I'm 6 feet tall, and I wanted to make sure it was perfect. I was like, this is not perfect for me. So we had our draftsman up there, we had our framer up there, we had our plumber all at once at midnight. And I'm like, the cops are going to get called on us, and we're the builders because we have lights, but we wanted it perfect. So we redrafted this, presented them with 2 options. They were
amazing,
ecstatic with both.
Well, they love it.
They were ecstatic with
great.
both, and then we proceeded with it. So that's the stuff you guys have to know, that a builder has to have your back 100% of the way, because truly, we could have just stuck with it and said, well, no, you built it per plans, per contract, and never had done anything to help them. But I don't think that's the reputation.
Well, I love that too, because this is a testament too, because a lot of people, you guys, there's a lot of builders that have a style, or they have, you can pick from our 8-10 homes. You guys are not that. The homes that I'm talking about with you guys
Fully
that we've
custom.
talked about, they're all completely different, right? So when somebody does bring in plans, we'll run into things like that from time to time. Other builders won't necessarily have that because we build 8 things. But when you guys make things completely custom for people, and they can make them however they want, which seems to be working, you're going to run into stuff like that as long as you guys can work through that.
Attention to detail. That's what this is telling me. And that is an absolute carryover from law enforcement, right? That's drilled into your head in the academy. Attention to detail. And it comes through in every way. I want to circle back to the framing, because here's the first attention to detail that I really noticed that set you guys apart. I've remodeled 5 homes myself. I worked for a builder a long time ago. The pony walls inside for the framing to set the floor joists on.
Yep.
Right? Can you explain how it's typically done and then how you did it differently?
So typically you have a sill plate, then they use hangers to set the joists in, and then they put the subfloor on. And years ago I went away from that.
Shove that mic right in your mouth.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate
There
it.
you go.
Years ago I went away from
so
that
much better.
method.
Why?
Well, hangers, typically you'll have floor squeaks. You're relying on a piece of hardware. And honestly, the building pony walls for the floor joist to sit on, as opposed to using hangers, through my experience and build after build after build, is just a better practice when it comes to the quality you're providing. I've very few times have I had to go back for a floor squeak, and if I have had a floor squeak, it's usually right at a crawl space access where they have to use hangers to kind of header it out. But outside of that, there's no floor squeaks.
It felt solid. It felt like you were on a
solid,
slab.
dude.
Yes.
Well, you guys, in the building process, Kootenai County is based off of 2018 International Building Code, and that's still what they recognize. And it'll get updated when the nation gives all its input and it gets changed over. But there's industry standards which get you past inspection, but that's not what people want everything built on. They want industry best practices.
Yes.
It's like
that's
mil
what that
spec.
is.
Yeah.
You guys, these are 100% 14 or 20 gauge joist hangers that you're hanging to hang a 20-foot
Everything
span
on, right?
And it's probably not the industry best standard, so that's why we adapted.
Yeah, so that pony wall blew my mind, dude. And it didn't take any really extra time. The framers knocked that out in no time at all. And then they set the floor joist right on that. The other thing on top of the floor joist, you guys use a upgraded, oh my gosh.
It's Advitech flooring.
flooring.
It's not your OSB.
You
it's
won
not
me
your
over on
plywood.
that because I don't care who you are. Like you can try to keep water, you can build in the summer.
Yeah.
It's still going to rain, and you're going to get rain on your subfloor. And I was in Athol looking at some other homes with a client. They're not your homes, and they used a different subfloor, and it was soaking wet in there. It had snowed. It was like my worst nightmare. I walked in there. I was like, do not.
So
And that subfloor was swelling already. And I'm like,
the Advitech, you could leave submerged. I think it's for like 365 days, and it will not swell. It will not absorb.
I was shitting my pants when you told me that. And I'm like, okay,
It's true.
But there's literally a lake on it, and you're like, it's good, dude. Trust me. And it dried up and nothing.
Nothing. And even the carpet guy complains when he has to drive in his tack strips.
I could see that.
Because the nails are freaking
rock hard.
I've had him complain several times, like, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's good shit, bro.
I could park
So
my truck on it.
Advantech as a lifetime warranty, no joke. It's tongue and groove so that there's no hinging in between any of the floor joists. And if you use their glue, probably because they're a moneymaker as well, they guarantee no squeaks. So lifetime warranty, tongue and groove, thicker flooring material, no squeaks.
They
Lifetime.
when they put mine down, so they built the foundation was up. They built all the pony walls, subfloors in. They were putting down the decking. I took my wife out there at 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, "Oh, we got a little romantic, check out the deck." And these fucking framers were still out there at 9 o'clock at night working under lights.
Under lights. Yes, they were.
And I'm like, okay,
They started at 6:30.
That's good stuff.
General contractor.
They started at
Back driving.
6:30 that morning, and they kept working till 10 o'clock that night.
and they got the whole deck down.
They
It
got
was
the
insane.
they got the pony walls and the subfloor on, and then they left. We had timelines, and they wanted to meet them.
They rocked it.
The framing crew that I work with is the best I've ever worked with.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, it's Bull Pine Construction. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed, and I don't know if this is common practice, you can tell me, but I know when you put studs up for the walls, right? There's going to be a natural bowing of the wood in and out and whatever. Spencer came in with a 6-foot level and added strips to every stud to even them out. So when they sheetrock,
drywall.
in the sheetrock, it's like perfectly smooth. You don't see any waving in the sheetrock.
Industry standards versus industry best practices.
Right.
That's the difference.
Like you said, it's about attention to detail. The last podcast we did, we talked about from the beginning, right? The excavation and foundation. It really starts there, but your framing. If you get your excavation framing or foundation and framing right, the rest of the project goes absolutely smooth. It goes into this with your attention to detail, and you're driving the project, but it goes into almost an autopilot when you have the right subs. Now with my subs, because we've been working together for so long, it truly does. I just need to pop my head in, spend a little bit of time, communicate, answer questions, do some QC, but I know that they're doing right. But the framing itself, when you get that right, you make sure you don't have any, we call them California corners, where in the corner exterior.
Whoa. There's no California anything up here, bro.
They call it that because it's wrong. And so so it's an outside corner where they have the two studs coming in at an angle, but there's a void. Instead of having an L shape, the L shape's facing the exterior, the outside of the house. So there's like a square that's completely, you can't insulate. And you know, you got to keep an eye on your framers because they will do that. So I guarantee you, at least half the houses in this county have that. But I keep an eye out for that.
My log home doesn't have that.
No, your log home does not. In fact, your log home doesn't even have insulation. And so, those are little things you got to keep an eye on, you know. And when you guys talked about drafting and how things come together with framing, Jon was just speaking to this. Paper and reality don't always come together the same way. You have to pay attention, make sure all the bearing points are transferring from each floor down to the foundation. You got to make sure your heel heights are right. You got to make sure there's no California corners. You got to make sure that your beams are have proper bearing. Right down to every aspect of it. If you do it right the first time and pay attention, and make sure your framers do it right, you're gonna have a quality home, and you're gonna have a smooth process. Right down to those strips you're talking about. They're called drywall shims. I do. This is something that I learned from the company I was working for, that we would take a 4, 6, 8 foot level and hit each wall, and we would go through and plane down the studs that were bowing inward, and we would shim the ones that are you know the transverse side of that, where the opposite side where it's caving in. You just make, and then no lumber and no construction is perfect, but you can make an effort to make it as perfect as you can. And that's the final attempt before you cover it up with those drywall strips, to make this most straight wall, the straightest walls possible.
This is probably a good time to bring up that even though you guys are a new company together, you're not new to building.
No.
How many homes have you built, Spencer, in the past?
I'm not 100%. It's somewhere between 40 and 50. I've done between 40 and 50 custom homes. Custom homes.
Up to what price? I know there are a couple. We don't
so
see
anywhere before inflation, it was right around 700,000. So that doesn't count. Up to $15 million homes.
$15 million.
And you know that, and I've had to go in and fix a lot of issues from previous builders. Where we came in from a previous builder, where I've had to go through and fix it, and that's a learning process that teaches you a lot, but it's also not fun. It also teaches you do things right the first time.
Yep.
Right, when you're fixing someone else's mistakes. But doing things right the first time is, and when no one's watching, who are you when no one's watching, right?
Definition of integrity.
Definition of integrity. And most of our people who I've built for and who we're currently building for, they're not around. And when they come into town and they see that things are being done right, and the timelines are on point and faster than they expected, and the subs are doing what they're supposed to be, diligently working when they walk on site, because they come into town and they just drive straight to the site. When they get there, the subs that I've been working with for years are just diligently working. That brings that confidence that they need to go back home to.
Yeah.
They never call worrying. They call with clarifications or questions, but it's never a worry. And we take pride in that.
How annoying is it that I'm at the job site every single day?
That's not annoying. You are. Just joking. Just joking. No, actually, Seth, I don't mind that. You actually, there's homeowners that go on site, and I've actually had them pull up a lawn chair and sit there while the subs work. That's annoying. However, you're not annoying when you actually kind of mind your P's and Q's. And
I'm well behaved.
And for the most part, you come to me with questions, and I don't mind that. I want to get things right for you. That's your dream home.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind you asking questions. You know, for the most part, you leave the subs alone. You let them work.
Your dream home has a 2-car garage?
I have a 4-car garage because I have another garage. Don't even start.
So 2 bays, but that garage is massive.
That garage is massive. I actually give gifts to my chickens. Give gifts to the subs daily.
Yes. They shit. They shit everywhere.
Some laid eggs in their vans.
Yes,
eggs in the vans.
The work trailers, their vans, everything.
They're terrible. My chickens are all over that freaking job site. It's kind of funny.
My Ukrainian framers are like, I keep those. I'm like, yeah, you keep
Absolutely.
those.
I told
Absolutely.
You if it's on your trailer, you get it.
I was like, take it off my tab.
Yeah.
Hey, I took a phone call today from a client that we're drafting for that's in the build process, and he said, Hey, John, I just want to know, I talked to one of my buddies, and he said he had to sign a disclosure that they would not visit the job site during the build.
A lot of builders do that.
We don't do that.
And I said, that is 100% unacceptable. I'm building your dream home. The only thing I would say is please don't interfere with the subs. I'm not saying you can't talk to them, but if you have an 8-hour-long conversation, I'm sorry, then your tile work's delayed another day and all that other stuff, right? So, no, please visit your home. It's your home. We want you to see everything. It's unequivocally clear. It's industry best practices or standards. And it all is good. Please visit your home. We want you to. We expect you to. Seth, if roles are reversed, I'm visiting my own home.
Yeah.
I feel like the builders that say that, they have something to hide.
You know what you're expecting.
Right.
And I want to make sure you get what you expect. So I don't want to get to the very end and you're like, you know what, that was supposed to be a pocket door or something that totally morphs into.
If you catch it early.
And so,
right?
so I don't mind. You should honestly, as a homeowner, you should not be catching things. The GC should be on it. But however, no one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. And so if you came in and said, hey, we were supposed to run electrical right there. And we had our home builder meetings. We had our pre-drywall meeting with you and everybody missed it, but you catch it 3 months later. That's not abnormal. But it's something that needs to be caught.
Yeah.
And so it's not a bad thing as long as boundaries are kept.
Why would you tell the homeowner not to visit their site unless they're interfering with the subs, which delays your process if you're in a contract? But also, it seems a little shady to me.
Yeah.
Please show up on our builds anytime you want and look at the process because we have nothing to hide, and you have to know that's that trust part. We have your back the whole way.
And bring scones for the
Yes.
guys.
And
I brought scones last Saturday for the cabinet guys. They were very appreciative.
And just remember, if we say this, but there is a level of caution. Like John said, if you're there talking to the subs, you are delaying your project.
Yeah.
And a 2-hour conversation could be potentially a 2-day delay.
And there are times when it's a safety issue, right? If they're putting trusses up, like, no, I'm not going to go in there because they might drop a hair. Who knows? Dude?
That was my next point, is remember that is an active construction site. And so I do ask that if you do go on sites, try not to talk to the subs. Go observe. And if you have questions, reserve them for me or John. We'll get them resolved and answered. And also, I would prefer that you go there after working hours. Yeah. Like at the end of the day, your working day, where no one's working, and I know the hazards are at a low, but we're not going to restrict you to that.
I tried that one time and it was 9 o'clock at night and they're still there. What the heck?
Yeah. But we, we're not going to restrict you to that or tell you can't. But it would be, in my opinion, being on site, it is better practice where it's quiet. As a homeowner, you can think, you can pay attention, and you can really, observe what's going on without noise, without distractions. Also, there's a safety aspect. It's not currently under construction.
Yeah.
Well, it's under construction, but no one's working. You're not going to have a hammer drop on your head. And just remember, even after hours, it's still an active construction site.
There's going to be nails and crap.
There's going to be nails. There's going to be fall hazards. There's going to be all sorts of things. So if you go on site during construction without myself or John there, just remember it's an active construction site and there are hazards.
I try to be. Go ahead, sorry.
No, we feel like most people visit the site after because they want to talk, right? Like your husband and wife, or they take their kids. They want to see We encourage that. Just Spencer's right. It is an active site. There's nails that probably aren't picked up every time. We do our best to make sure that the site is as clean and sanitary as possible because we want the homeowners. We encourage them to visit. Don't delay the subs so that we don't delay your build. But also, when my wife and I walk through our builds, we talk. There's some private conversations where we're like, hey, this is where our daughter's headboard will be up against the wall, furniture, stuff like that you guys should. I think we encourage that.
It can be dangerous because if you bring your wife there too much, then she's going to have different ideas, right? And that brings me to my next question.
I think you mean expensive instead of
Change
dangerous.
orders. Yeah.
But to the previous point, and my third point is just remember that if you watch the sausages get made, you're probably not going to want to eat it. And so, nothing's ever perfect, right?
Yeah.
And there's always site adjustments, and then there's mistakes that you have to catch, and you make the framers or whoever correct them. And if you have a certain personality, and you always remember that mistake was there or that was corrected, you're always going to remember that spot in the house. If you watch the sausages get made, you're less likely going to eat it.
Yeah, good point.
It's not. I don't want to watch my bratwurst get made. I know it tastes good. I know it's fantastic and perfect, but I don't necessarily want to watch it be made.
Yeah. So change orders. How are you guys handling that?
Do you have any more? Do you have any more comments about sausage? Are you good?
What else? Dave?
Well, I saw you salivating, Dave, so I'll stop.
All right.
Great question.
So change orders, right? People ask that. That's a common question. Like, how are you guys going to handle that, right?
Here is our philosophy on change orders. Change orders come from the clients. Change orders should not be coming from your builder. You guys give us a set of plans. Prior to signing a contract, we go through, we select all your finishes. We know what we're building. However, reality is, Spencer's right. Paper versus reality of the actual build. People start walking through and they're like, hey, we love our fireplace, in the center of the wall instead of the corner. Can you change that? Of course, anything can be changed. But that is something that we have to go repay the framer. We have to go repay the electrician if it's a fireplace, if it's a gas fireplace, and we have to repay the HVAC to come gas line that over to the center of the wall versus the corner. Change orders are totally acceptable. They come from you guys, not from us. That is not reality, you guys. Reality is with a lot of builders, they get you locked in and the change orders come from them. That is not industry best practices. It is a quite frankly, I don't say this to sound draconian to all the other builders, but it is a foul practice. They should not be coming from you. Do your homework, bid your shit accurately, and stick to your word. There's times that I mess up a bid. But guess what? We eat that out of our general contractor fees. And I've done it on yours.
Yep.
And we're a man of our word. I told you it was this price. I'm sorry we screwed that up. We'll eat that cost. And I have done that on yours. There's nothing perfect. You're trying to build a 1-year Lego, if you will, based off directions, and people change shit throughout the process.
Yeah.
Or their family grows. You know what I mean? 12 months could be a long time. Shit changes, shit evolves over time. However, if we say we're going to do it, we follow through, and I have eaten cost before. I think it's the right thing to do.
And we've eaten cost even if it is a change order from the homeowner. The homeowner wants something different, and it's minimal. We're like, you know what?
Little stuff.
Somebody wants
it.
a fan now.
Actually, bring up our most recent Revelstoke build. They wanted so we originally talked about, plumbing fixtures and plumbing finishes through the line items, and both are broken down. So there's plumbing rough-in, which is one phase of it. The drywall goes on, and there's the plumbing finishes. Two different aspects of the build process. Although it's the same, it's the plumber doing it. Two different portions of the build process. Somebody most recently wanted to add a pot filler. You guys, it's 6 feet of PEX line. I'm not saying that we can do it every time for free. They come in, they crimp it on, they add a pot filler, and you guys have to pay for the finish. We're not going to nickel and dime our homeowners for something that takes 30 minutes to put in, and the plumber's there already. If it's some major drastic change that's going to take money out of our pocket that we didn't promise up front, then it's probably going to be a change order from the homeowner.
Well, let's speak even further to that. Same project. We had a tub. They wanted a jetted tub, and there was a tub that they picked on the front end. Well, the plumber has to buy everything for the rough-in, including the tubs. You have to buy it ahead of time to get it there. And so when we say, hey, we're moving, right? And so tub was purchased. We move forward. They're like, well, hold on, we want to change it. That was a big cost. Myself and John were like, okay, how do we work this out? So we go to the plumber, hey, we're not putting this on the homeowner. Well, how do we work this out? And so we ate part of that cost. The plumber was good to work with us, but we ate part of that cost just to give the homeowner what they wanted. It's about reasonableness as a GC on how you deal with change orders or changes along the way. Changes along the way, regardless to who comes up with it, it's undesirable. It comes down to time, material acquisition, requisition, and then getting the subs back, and then money, right?
Yeah.
And so it's undesirable. It's nice to have everything front loaded, but we change our minds. We see things developing, and we're like, you know what? How about this? We prefer to have things done on the front end and decided, but it's not abnormal and it's not unnatural to get to a certain process. You know what? I want wainscoting there.
I have a perfect example of that on our house. The stone on the front.
Yes.
Right. And this was on us. We had in the plans. We had a foot of stone around the front door. Once the siding was on and we're looking at it, we're like, that's going to be stupid. And that's on us. Nobody could catch that. That's a style thing. So we tore off the siding on that whole little front porch and did the stone. Thankfully, the stone was already in stock, so we didn't really have a wait. But we had the extra cost of the stone and labor to do it. But that's a perfect example of one that was on us, and that's because,
And the home looks better because of it.
It's way better.
It does.
It was
but
worth it.
Give perspective of the change order. How did it occur? You came up with a different idea.
Yep.
You met Spencer on site. You guys draft what you want.
He got the bid from the
Blacks.
They did all the masonry and they did our gutters too. What else?
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep, masonry and gutters.
You guys presented the bid. Here's what it will be if you want to do that. And we're like, okay, let's do it.
Yep.
By the way, Blacks is fantastic. Their gutters, those
guys are rock solid.
Their masonry, their chimney caps, all their metal work, and their staff.
That masonry on the front porch that my wife has dreamt about forever, which will also be on our fireplace, that pretty much put my wife in tears. Not me, I don't cry. But it put my wife in tears. Like, it's
your
beautiful.
house is turning out good.
Yeah, it was totally worth
because
it.
we're building it.
And the gutter guys that came out, the one guy had 30 years of experience, the other one had 18 years of experience doing gutters.
Yeah.
Like, they nailed it.
Of course.
Super fast.
Blacks is
all
fantastic. They are top notch.
all vetted.
Very impressive.
So you guys, something funny. We turned down a client. Okay, you guys have turned down clients before. I know that it's very, very important to you guys. Unlike a lot of people, they'll just take a contract and they'll just run with it. I know that there's a lot of actual builders that don't actually meet the clients, right? I mean, you go to some of these builders out here that are putting up a lot of houses, and you don't actually meet the builders. You meet the rep. The rep goes, hey, we want to pay this much. You sign a contract and you move on, right? You don't have that contact with them. You guys are meeting all the people you're building with.
Right.
The biggest thing in a build,
turn people away.
The biggest thing in a build for me and John is, do our personalities mesh? Not all personalities mesh, but how bad don't they mesh? Now, we don't want someone at the end, we don't want to give you what you asked for, and it's a beautiful home, quality home, and it to be a bad experience for everybody. Everybody's personality is different, but personality is a huge thing with that. You're basically establishing an intimate relationship with that homeowner, and if the personalities don't mesh, it's not going to be good no matter how hard you work for that person. They're not going to be happy. They're gonna want this, and you're going to try and deliver that, and you're going to give them what they asked for, but it's not going to, in their mind, it's not going to really reach what they want or wanted. And personalities just don't always mesh. And so as you're it's a two-way interview, as John says. You're interviewing us to build your home, but we're also interviewing you. Like, if you're going to be a nightmare, or our personalities don't mesh, John and I have a decision to make. You can choose us, but we still have a decision to make, because we want you to be happy. And if you're not going to be happy with us, but we also don't want to be miserable or unhappy ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair.
It's a give and take relationship, where if we don't connect, it's not worth it for either party.
So that's a huge thing. That's why we love this podcast, man, because we meet people that actually mesh with our personalities. People don't like it, they turn it off, right?
Correct.
They go and do something else, they check out somebody else. So I think that's huge. And the fact that you guys are willing to meet with people one-on-one so they know who's actually behind building it is something that's different than a lot of builders up here, right? You might get a walk-in from the owner or somebody else and be like, hey, it's nice to meet you. We're really excited to build for you, but you don't get any quality time with them.
Right. No.
So I think that's pretty cool that you guys make yourselves available. And I don't know if that's available if you're building 30, 40, 50 homes.
No.
I really don't.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. So, actually, Dave, I think it's important to talk about the detail of the one we declined. It would have been an expensive home. It would have padded our pockets. It would have been great overall.
It was over $2 million,
Yeah.
$2.5 million. Yeah.
On the lake, it would have been a cool build. However, we're sitting in this build meeting, and you're right. He's asking us questions. We're answering it. We're trying to placate to obviously win this bid, right? And then, 10 minutes into it, I'm like, this is bullshit. Sir, you need to look in the mirror. Your wife can't even stand you, and I'm already annoyed 10 minutes into this conversation. This 12-month intimate relationship build is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Man.
Thank you, but no thank you. You should probably go to a different builder.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're a pain in the ass. I've only known you for 10 minutes. Your wife has literally rolled her eyes 4 times. I'm not going to make some fake relationship out of this.
Yeah.
With our current build, you guys, we've received Christmas cards. We've been out to breakfast.
Whiskey.
Whiskey.
A
We've been
really
out to
nice
breakfast.
bottle of whiskey that
2 bottles of whiskey.
Rip the top off of. Not even
Those
knowing
are
that's
the
a gift. Thank
relationships
you.
we want to build. Of course,
Bland's.
we want to build your dream home, but also there's a very connected relationship, because we're talking one every 3 days, every other week,
texting,
and like Spencer said. He doesn't broach this topic, but it happens. I see it all the time, weekly, where we build for clients either from Canada, which we should probably talk about that at some
we
point,
do.
LA, East Coast, And they're
Portland,
like, hey, we
Seattle.
want to see progress of our house.
Yeah.
So
But-
I'll show up to a website. I'll show up to one of our build sites, and he's on FaceTime, walking around, looking and pointing like this, and I take pictures of him because he looks like a goofball talking on FaceTime. But it's awesome, and the clients love it, and I can't talk smack. They love it.
No, and that's a good thing. I like the client relationship, because truth be told is like, I always tell people like, hey dude, it's 5:00, like I'm at home. But then I get clients that call me and I see their name come across. I'm like, man, I like this person.
Yeah, me too.
Like, and then I'm taking a call at 7:30 at night just because I have a relationship with them.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. And I think that's something that's going to set you guys apart, because I really think that you start getting into that. I mean, you guys do. If you guys end up doing 12 to 15 houses a year, that's still a lot of people to manage.
Yep.
We are on track
So,
to do that this year.
yeah.
Actually, most recently, one of our clients is like, "Hey, we have this microwave we just purchased. There's some sentimental value. I don't know if it was like handed down or like
A handed down microwave from what, 1998?
I
What are we
don't-
talking
I
about?
don't know. I-
The best kind, radiation.
I don't know. It was more of like, because I said it was just purchased. They just purchased it from their son that just got this job. So anyway, I don't really know. They really wanted to keep this microwave. We need specifications for our cabinet so it looks good. So they're like, where do we mail it? We can't mail it to our house that's being built. And I was like, you guys have my address. You guys send us a Christmas card. Just mail it to our house. But we
That's
have your
cool.
back during the build. I just want to make sure people truly know that.
All right, so mail your microwave to John. That's perfect.
Yeah. Hey, send him,
Appliances just
send
showing
him,
up, dude.
send him a refrigerator.
All right, I want to get back. Okay, so from framing,
Yes.
I want to get back into like what's the next process, and let's take it all the way to like where my house is right now. So framing, insulation's next.
No.
What's next? Break.
So
run
you
me
have
through.
all your rough-ins, your
Oh,
mechanical
yeah. Oh,
rough-ins.
that's important. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Up here in the inland Northwest, Northwest in general, you get a lot of rain. You have wet seasons. So getting that roof on, getting it dried in is paramount. So as soon as your framing's done or even close to being done, you call that in and get as little moisture in that house as possible.
So if people don't know, what does dried in mean?
Dried in is
What's
when
there?
they call it water and ice. It's that paper that they put on your roof sheeting before they put the shingles. And I'm saying it like that, not because I'm dumb, just because I know
I
people
saw
are
underlayment.
Yeah, there you go. But if you say that, most people don't
I
know what that
understand,
means.
yep.
So I'm speaking common tongue.
Layman's, yep.
So it's an underlayment, which that's typically a water protection, kind of a second defense from your shingles or your roofing.
And then Tyvek on the siding.
Tyvek on the siding.
Or
You
the,
get
windows?
you get that thing buttoned up. Well, windows, that's not necessarily that's in the process. But like if you're talking about the actual like getting things done,
So much for basketball practice.
It's true. Sorry, Peyton. And you get your plumbing, your HVAC, your electrical. You get all that in, right?
Those dudes were fantastic, all of them.
Electric, yeah, IWI.
Colin over there was great,
absolutely. Northland Plumbing, great subs. And then you get your inspections.
Oh, there's a lot of inspections.
Once you
Kootenai
get that-
County's no joke, dude.
Oh,
But they're fantastic. They truly try to work with
Are we
you.
just saying that because they might listen?
No,
You guys are great.
I would.
Oh, they are
no.
meant to protect the homeowner.
Yeah.
They are meant to protect the homeowner. They're meant to hold GCs accountable, and to make sure things are done right. They truly do. And I'm not saying I've never had like a failed inspection. I'm saying that they fail you because they want you to do it right.
they're ghosts.
They are ghosts.
They will tell you you can leave for 4 minutes and be there all day, and all of a sudden you get an email that says, "Oh, passed."
That ain't
What
no
the
shit.
fuck?
Absolutely. But the inspectors in Kootenai County truly try to make sure that GCs, they hold them accountable. And I don't have a problem with that.
No, it's a good thing, especially for homeowners.
If it needs to be done right, it needs to be done right. Or if it's not right, it needs to be done right. It's just, when I say they're phenomenal, I'm not saying that I haven't had my frustrations. I'm saying they truly know the code book and they hold the GCs accountable.
On that note, the roofers that you used on my house, dude, what am I trying to say? They roofed my entire house in one day.
Rival,
it's pretty common.
that's Rival Roofing. They're fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
I was gone for like, a day.
Yeah.
And I came back and I have
What kind of roofing material you do?
asphalt comp.
nice. That's cool.
The cool thing
Metal.
about
I don't have your money, Dave. I didn't do
Metal.
metal. I actually didn't want metal, to be honest. I've had metal roofs before. I didn't want it.
I didn't want shingle.
The cool part
Sliding.
about Rival Roofing, on another project, Jeff is the owner. He actually goes on site and he checks it. And I actually had a project where he walks on. He's like, I don't like that. He got a screw back and he said, fix that. They spent 2 days fixing it
That's awesome.
because it didn't meet his quality control. And that kind of speaks to the subs that we're using. where with the owner of that, and Rival Roofing is a big company, and for the owner to hit each site into quality control and to make sure that his product is how he wants it, that day spoke a lot to me regarding that company.
Yep. Okay, so we're dried in, rough ends are done. Now insulation.
Yeah, insulation.
Okay.
And then there's an inspection, obviously, and then drywall. And before we do drywall, John and I typically go through and do like a pre-drywall walkthrough. Whether it's before installation or after, we'll do a walkthrough to make sure that if it's possible, if the homeowners can't make it, they can't make it. But we have an electrical plan we follow.
Right, just to confirm, that's your pre-drywall walkthroughs with the homeowners.
We try to, yes. Correct. We try to do that if possible, and to make sure that your outlets, your switches, the ones that are outside of code, like you have your code for outlets, but there's ones you choose. I want this extra one.
There's a lot, and there's a lot to think about, but you were really good in that, and Colin at Electric was really good in that. Because I went to Colin, because I was there every day, and I was like, hey,
lawn chair.
If this was your house, what would you do? And you had recommendations, and Colin did too. And it was invaluable because he's like, I would probably put an outlet here for this, or like Eve outlets for Christmas tree lights, things like that.
Those are standard anyway, but there's always homeowners that want an outlet some random spot.
Yeah, like a bidet. I want a future bidet. Put electrical
But see,
outlet
that's
there.
the thing with people that build. Like you gotta. I love the fact that you asked that question. I've asked every sub that's worked on my house for my renovation, what would you do? I got my electrician over there. What would you do? And he's like, well, I would probably do this and that. Why? He tells me. I'm like, all right, let's do that. Yeah. Because I don't want to tear apart drywall, have to push wires through plumbing, anything else. I don't want to find out in 3 years that I like water on my booty and that I'm going to put a bidet in.
Which he does, by the way.
Yeah, he does. I can confirm.
Right, I do. I'm getting a bidet this time. I'm psyched. And mine's only $250. Yours is.
I have a very fancy one, bro.
Have you tested yours out?
No.
It actually searches for the starfish.
So I just went through this. Mine's not a starfish anymore, dude. What? I can't say it.
No, bro.
I said I had I had a procedure.
Changing topics. So
it looked like an eclipse.
On oh my goodness. On
what?
I don't even know where we're going with that. No, keep it, Bob. On that note, so
I'm better now.
So electrical, I had some very custom ones that I wanted, and that was the time to do it. It's way easier beforehand than after. Yeah. Here's a perfect example. Like I went back and forth on this. Do I want 400 amps to the house, right? And it costs extra. Yeah. Just for the wire itself is very expensive, and Kootenai Electric had to do some upgrades and some things, but it was worth it to me to run it now. So now I have 400 amps to the house, and I can run it down in the barn and the other garage. That's something you think about. Like to do it now is way cheaper than doing it later.
Well, my goal in building is once drywall's on, I don't want to be cutting holes.
No,
I don't want to be removing drywall. Right. I don't want it to look like Swiss cheese. Through the process and to have a bunch of patch and repair at the end. I want to get it right the first time.
Yep. I bet you 90% of remodels that people do are not structural. They're finishes.
Yeah.
People go in and they're like, I want new countertops. I want new paint. I want to add new cabinets, right? That stuff is easy to do. Yeah. Moving electrical, plumbing, adding electrical. I mean, that shit gets expensive.
Well, as a business owner, when those errors happen, that's on us. I don't want to, I'm here to give you your dream home, but I'm also running a business, which you run a business to make money.
Yeah.
That comes out of my pocket. And so I take pride in that. And I make sure that John and I are running a solid business and you're getting a solid product. There's two sides to this relationship.
Can I add a couple more people that were instrumental in this? Michelle over at Homestyle Lighting.
Michelle Turbin is fantastic.
She's amazing. Awesome. So we've been in there multiple times with her. She sits down, takes hours with us, and she went over she knows lighting inside and out.
Yes.
And she takes the plans out. She even went out to the job site, and she's like, I would do lights here, here, all of it. She laid it all out.
And it's a great vendor. They showed up, that's the first time I'd used Carpet One and Michelle. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
And then Keller, the plumbing supply over in Spokane Valley. I can't remember her name, but she was Anna. She was very good too. Same thing. Like she showed us all of these fixtures and and picked all of that stuff out. Like if you tried to go to Home Depot, and we thought about it, you're not going to save money. They weren't any more expensive.
Right.
And you get way better options, and you get somebody that knows the business that can talk you through it. And that was huge.
Yes.
Also, Hannah over at Lake Forest.
Even Precision. You guys went over to Precision.
Yeah. Precision.
They guided you through your trim and
Yeah.
doors, and you got Chris and Dean over there. They're fantastic.
So being able to go to the experts in that field and sit down with them and have them explain it to me and my wife was hugely valuable, and it like takes a massive amount of stress off. Right. Hannah over at Lake Forest, my wife brought in all the colors and she helped pick out the flooring and the tile, and then draws diagrams on a computer for the tile guy, which you then post on the wall, so there's no confusion. The tile guy knows the exact pattern. He knows what tile's going where. It's beautiful.
They all have great showrooms.
Yeah.
And to go to a showroom and see what you're picking is essential. When you look online and you're like, oh, I like that, and you purchase it, there's always that risk, right? We're like, oh, I don't really like it in person. But to actually go and see the showrooms and see, and I'd imagine at Precision Millwork and Doors, you probably went there with something in mind, but you saw something else and you were like, you know what, that's better.
Yep.
And that's what you get. That's what you get.
Exactly. And then, so texture on the sheetrock. That's a big one.
Imperfect, smooth, square corners. That's your thing.
Well, we went into
that's your thing, bro.
Custom drywall.
Yeah, Chris Johnson, Custom Drywall, fantastic.
So they have a showroom, and we went in there and looked at different textures, so you can see all of them. It's confusing. If you pick orange peel, you're living in 1990s, so don't do that, Eric.
Eric
loves orange peel.
There are a lot of good modern options, and not like I love imperfect smooth.
Yeah.
I've had it in 2 previous homes. I knew that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I know people have come into our house and see it and like, I don't like that. I'm like, that's fine. I love it. Yeah. And I like square corners. I don't like rounded corners. But
you also like toggle switches, by the way.
I like toggle switches too.
You get those cheap, man. I got a bunch for you. I just redevised my entire house.
The old ones, dude.
You could have had all mine. They're even ivory.
But like having the ability to go see that stuff in person. And I know at our office where you guys are also located, we're building out the podcast room in there, so this will be new. We're going to have different textures. So if people come in to meet with you guys, they can look at them and see what do I want. Maybe I want the skip.
The skip smear. I'll say this about orange peel. As a builder, when someone picks it, I say thank you.
It's easy, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks as better.
I know
as
how
good.
easy it is because I've done it.
Yeah.
See, that's
by myself.
If I can do it, then it's not.
I have an $8 hopper from Harbor Freight, and I think I've used that.
Yeah.
That piece of equipment more than anything else I own.
And you can buy orange peel in a can at Lowe's for $9.
And if Dave thought it was easy, you should see him. You should see him try and cut insulation.
So texture's done.
Perfect, dude.
So texture's done. Painters
Yeah,
come in.
yeah.
Who do you use?
Pacific Northwest Paint.
Those dudes are meticulous.
I'll tell you, I've used them on all sorts of high-end homes, and Cameron with Pacific Northwest Paint. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
They don't care. Like, they want to deliver a pristine product, and Cameron and Shane, those two will go to each site and make sure it's right.
Those boys spent days cleaning the beams because we have some exposed beams in our house.
Yep.
And, with texturing, crap gets on the beams. They were up there for days cleaning them, making them perfect, staining them.
Yep.
The line where the sheetrock meets the beam, they like dressed it all. It's perfect. I'm like, dude.
And the cool part,
it's the sausage. It's the sausage analogy.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep. And the cool part about Pacific Northwest Paint and all my subs, but we're talking about Pacific Northwest Paint. They truly establish a relationship with their builder, and so it becomes personal. Like, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to show up early, or I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to leave it better than I found it. Yeah. And right down to right at closing, when it comes to after you do your drywall touch up, they will come in and they will make sure things are right. They do not complain. They show up. I've tried working with one other painter before, and after they spray and leave, to get them back to fix things, they didn't want to come back because they got their money, they left, and to get them back was like pulling teeth. I'm not playing that game with nobody. Pacific Northwest Paint, I am sold. They have done it my $700,000 all the way up to $15 million
Well, dude, they
homes.
paint, and then somebody brings in cabinets, put a hole in the wall. There's all sorts. I mean, nicks, everything.
Here's one thing that I feel like sets us apart over others. Actually, two prongs. First is when you have some of your trades ask you to build their custom home, when they have intimate knowledge with the building. I feel like that sets you apart. And out of the 3 trades we just talked about, 3 of them have asked us.
That's
One's
wild.
commercial as well. The second prong of that is We recognize when you move into your house, you're going to hit your walls, you're going to hit your doors, and part of your paint package is not the initial paint, but it's also they'll come in and touch up after you moved in.
That's fantastic.
And I feel like that's huge. I feel like
Now, let me clarify that just to set expectations. It's not if you were moving a couch in and you ram it through the wall. That's not the touch up he's talking about.
It's not their fault.
There's not a third prong either.
So no, there's a
Just
third
making
prong.
sure
So
there's not a third prong.
So touch up is at the year mark we send them in. And if there's drywall pops or your beam twisted and it cracked your drywall, or there's something going on that's construction related, Pacific
What time drywall fix?
the custom drywall will come in and fix it. Pacific Northwest Paint will come in and fix it.
Nice.
either way, for all the viewers, Spencer will come fix that.
He's good.
Yeah.
He does a lot. He's handy.
Got you.
He's handy.
Hey, you know, John's
Moving
coined term is, yeah, that's easy. Hey, Spencer, go do that. And so,
Moving on.
All right, so okay,
Moving
on. So paint. Now we're at our house. We're at the finished carpentry stage. So Tarek with Barton.
it's Barton flooring and trim work, or
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. But Tarek and his crew,
Awesome.
They've been with me for 5 or 6 years. Fantastic. They work their butt off. They deliver a quality product.
What's the benefit of having the same guy do the flooring and the trim?
So in my experience, because I've had both, right? Some trim carpenters, a lot, don't want to do the flooring. They'll hire their buddy to do it, or they'll just say, "I'm not doing that." Well, Tarek comes in and he sets up shop in the garage, and he goes from flooring all the way through trim. The benefit to that is there's no transition. He's there, his equipment's set up, and honestly, if there's an issue, it's not like, hey, go call that flooring guy. It's he did it, and so he knows how to fix it. I'm a huge fan of Tarek. I've worked with him through so many projects, and I have full confidence in that team. Through flooring, through trim, that I don't even worry about anybody else.
They're super meticulous. They've been sanding the floor to get it perfectly smooth so the flooring goes down.
What did you walk into today? You walked into today with him a level on the floor.
Yeah.
He
don't like this one spot.
Yep.
Do you have hardwood floors?
No, it's engineered flooring, but
Okay.
but yeah, he's like.
Said he's sanding the floors?
Yeah.
He's sanding the subfloor down so it's
okay.
Sanding the
perfectly level.
subfloor. So Tarek will come in and he'll come in early and sand the subfloor to prep it for laying the floor.
So I'm never going to have an issue with my flooring. It's
He'll-
perfectly flat.
That is what I always say. You have to have your builder has to have your back.
Yeah.
that is on us to do. We're going to make
I
it
don't
perfect.
think a lot of- I know
the
these-
homeowners will never think of that. We wouldn't expect you to. No different than if we had an insurance question. If you're an insurance agent, we ask you that. You have to ask your builder. Make sure your builder has your back, and we will make sure your floor is perfect. That's the whole reason you hire a general contractor.
And why would we use a flooring guy that just came in and just sort of slap it? I've had that before. They just start slapping it down.
I bet you most, especially these large quantity builders up here, they ain't doing that.
I've had multiple houses that I've sold where you step on the floor and you're like, what's under there? We pulled it up. We found rocks underneath
cheap.
it, all sorts of stuff.
And you'll find Tarek sweeping and vacuuming
Constantly, yeah.
and right down to he takes the moisture level of the subfloor and the actual flooring before he starts putting it down to make sure it meets the actual manufacturer specs. It's all about trust in your subs. You just don't pick some chuck in a truck off the street. You gotta have vetted subs, and the benefit that John and I have is I've spent years vetting them, and Tarek's one of them.
Okay, so flooring, trim. I've been waiting to talk about this. Cabinets.
So the cabinet's coming first.
Okay.
So Jed with Worthwood.
I'm going to plug him. Okay, here's the full disclosure. We got 2 bids for cabinets. Jed, who you recommended.
Yep.
And I was nervous. I met him and I was like, "This guy's amazing. He's going to be too.
sub.
He's going to be too expensive."
And then
I
your
didn't know.
your brain was on a huge cabinet company.
Yes. So
Huge.
I'll say it. I don't care. They're local and they do a lot of good work up here. Huntwood Cabinets. They're over in Liberty Lake. We got a bid from both. And I wanted to go with Jed because I love that deal. Like I met him right away. I'm like, he's good. He's salt of the earth.
But you guys were pushing Huntwood.
I was nervous because I'm like, there's no way he can beat the price on this huge builder, right?
box.
And we went with the lady at Huntwood, bid it out, and like it was good. The quality of the cabinet, I didn't think was going to be as good as Jed, and I was right. Jed beat their price, which blew my mind. They wanted to charge like $14,000 to install.
Yep. Well, his overall price was probably
it's built in.
It was like $20,000 more to go to Huntwood.
It was. Wow. If I could cry, Like I would cry about how nice the cabinets are that he has done. They
You,
are
you,
like
you can sweat.
furniture.
You can sweat. It's okay.
Hold on, let me splash a little whiskey in my eye.
Just get the words out.
They
God.
are they're furniture quality cabinets. I go in there, I'm like, dude, my pantry. I go in the back. I'm like, it's like you built a freaking piano in the back of my pantry, bro. Like no one's ever gonna see it, but it's amazing. And the color. So he does a white oak with a what's he called, a natural finish or something like that. It's phenomenal. And when I compare that to the finish of the same thing that Huntwood, theirs looked fake.
Yeah.
His looks like real white oak. It's stunning.
So my experience with Jet is this. I spent years with it wasn't Huntwood, but another cabinet company. And that's just who we used. And the process was never smooth. It was never, there was always some level of chaos to it. And the company that I was building with at the time, we decided to build a spec. And somehow they got turned on to, like, Jed came into town. They're like, okay, let's give this guy a shot. And he came in, and he when he was the actual install stayed on track, and they were respectful. They were clean.
Yep.
Everything. And as they were installing, I'm like, this is really good quality. And at the end, they protected the lower cabinets to make sure other subs don't come in and bang them. And then, I saw the final product, and I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, that guy gives a shit. And that guy is talented. And then we move on to the next project, where we gave him the next project because he did such a good job with the spec. Same. It's consistency, right?
Yeah.
And so through those two homes, I built a pretty good relationship with him. And admittedly, I was like, bro, are you Amish? Like, your product is so good.
Mennonite.
That's not a dig.
It's not a dig. It's a compliment. And he's like, I've been asked that before. And I was like, okay, I don't feel bad now. However, such a good dude. Like, his integrity is beyond reproach, and his that's personal level. But his product is, you can't even pick it apart.
No, it's absolutely stunning. They, like you said, they're super clean and super respectful. I mean, they're like nicely dressed.
They show up on time and they end on time.
They are, super polite to my wife, like everything, like
Yes.
fully trustworthy. And the way they do the cabinets. So, I've been around cabinets. I've put some in myself. They have a newer. I'm sure a lot of companies are using this, and not just them. But they don't set them on, whatever 3.5 inch plywood base anymore. Now they have these adjustable legs that they put down, so that everything is flawlessly leveled, done with a laser. It's done, perfect.
I've had them come in where, like, the granite's supposed to go right into the window well.
Yeah.
Where they're like, they set them in just like you described, and they're like, hey, we're off a 1/4 inch. We got to figure this out. I've never had that problem with Jet.
No, I looked at it, and that's what mine is going to do, and it's perfectly level right into it. And here's a great example. He was there working last weekend because he's in town, and I went in. Kristen and I went in there, and he's like, "Hey, this is Jed." He's like, "Hey, there's this void in this corner cabinet on the upper." He's like, "This would be a great place to put a gun." I'm not going to tell you where. And I was like, "Thank you for bringing that up, dude." He's like, "Do you want me to leave it open? You can put a magnet in there and hide a gun up in there." I was like, absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
Leave that open, please. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Huntwood wouldn't do that for me.
When we first started playing,
Just don't hang some like High Point or something. It's like
High Point.
Please do something.
He wants Ruger.
Do something good. Something
special.
No, when we first started our building meetings, I was like, Jed's the best, and I could feel everybody kind of rolling their eyes because everybody says that their sub's the best. Everybody says it, and it's true. And naturally, when someone says that to me, I roll my eyes. But the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was like when you tell me they're the best, I'm like, oh man, that's gonna be really expensive, right? But it wasn't.
No.
So that was my fear. I'm like,
No.
I want the best, but I don't know that I can afford the best.
Let's be fair; it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But
How cheap was it?
Like for the whole house,
a
lot.
Seth has a lot of cabinets.
but cheaper than Huntwood.
But let's not confuse the word cheap with inexpensive. Right. I wouldn't say he's inexpensive, but he's less than some of the top guys are in the area.
Right, and we figured that out. Like,
Yes.
we did our homework. and
Huntwood's
compared it.
selling a name now. Let's just be honest.
I would agree.
They got a name, and people can do that. It's just like builders out there. There's builders that'll build the exact
Huntwood's
same
not
thing.
bad.
And no, it's not bad. Nobody
lot
said
of custom
that.
homes have it.
They become a name because they've done a good job.
Okay.
So, but then your name starts to sell you. I mean, there's guys out there that could build homes. You can build homes just as good as them, but they're going to charge 10, 15% more for the
100%.
same exact product.
Because they're proud of
100%.
themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that is a thing. I think that's where you're seeing it with Huntwood is that they have a name now. Everybody uses Huntwood and they're excited about it. They're like, I have Huntwood cabinets.
Yep.
But
Right.
yeah,
And on the install, like he gives a shit so much. You know, we had some floating shelves on the fireplace. So we have a big fireplace that's going to be all stone, and then there's 2 floating shelves on the left. He called us in, and you called us in too, of like, hey, there's a slight discrepancy on the elevation of this one shelf. He wanted to get it perfect, you know, and he asked our opinion. How do you want it to line up with the mantle?
Right.
So we got to help decide that, and it ended up great. And then we're there, and he's like, you know, it might look more balanced if we did, because we're gonna have the TV on the other side. He's like, it'll probably look more balanced if you did one floating shelf above the TV, and we weren't gonna do it. So we added it last minute, and he was like, no issues.
Yeah.
You know, he called the shop, get it on order, it's coming. Like all of that was perfect, and we have lighting in a lot of those shelves, so there was issues with getting the electric lined up, and like he's done all that perfectly, dude. It's been phenomenal.
You know, I as you spoke, I kind of started thinking. There's a lot of unsung heroes in the construction world, like foundation. Like nobody says Marty with Creepmaster. You know, after we finish it, we're like, man, that's a badass foundation. But they do a fantastic job. You know, Bullpine, they do the framing. It's covered up, and all of a sudden everybody forgets.
Yeah.
You know, and so you focus on like because the focal points of an overall build are like cabinets, fireplace,
Finishes, things that you're gonna see, right.
But the true focal points would be like the granite, the cabinets, the fireplace. That's what people walk in and they're like, ooh, this is fantastic. And so, you know, we're dwelling on that because that's the focal point of when people walk in.
Yep.
And
They know it, though. It's no different
know
than
it.
the offensive lineman. The quarterback is nothing without an offensive lineman.
absolutely.
I can hold it. 100%.
And that's a good analogy. And
Position play?
but
The linebacker, Dave. How did it look from the sideline?
I knew him when he was skinny, and and so when you walk in, you see the cabinetry. Those are like the heroes at the end, where they're just like,
Yeah.
boom, this is fantastic. When the granite comes in, or the quartz, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you choose, those are the pieces that people see and they fixate on. And so Jed just he brings it home.
Yeah.
He brings it home.
Yep. Also tiles going on right now.
Yep, Rod with Nighthawk.
Dude.
He's really good.
That's a cool name too.
Nighthawk. It reminds me of Step Brothers.
Yeah, dog. No, he's meticulous, man.
He's good.
You know,
One man show.
He's laying out the floor in our bathroom right now. It's
Yep.
a heated floor, so there's multi steps, right? You
Yep.
even had to have an inspection on that.
Yep.
And he, you know, I saw him this morning. He's like, these are tough because I can't really just draw a line, right? He's trying to get everything
Yep.
perfectly in line. He's like, I can't really snap a line on the flooring that the wire winds through, whatever you call it. And so he dry laid it all in, and then he pulled it back out
Perfect.
once it was perfect, and then
Yep.
reset it. I'm like, I
That's-
don't feel like a lot of people are going to take that extra step.
You got to trust your builder.
Right.
It all comes back to that common core.
Let's go back to Rod. There was a sub that John's like, hey, use this guy, right?
Yep.
And the only time in this second time.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
That was on me.
The second time in the build, I was like, okay, bro, I'll throw you a bone. Let's do it. Before we even started, it was the day before we started. Huge red flag. I was like, I ain't doing that. Rod, I'm calling Rod. And Rod showed up the next day.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a sub to meet you the next day and then show up the following. And Rod did that.
Well, that's only because of you, Spencer. They're not going to do that for the random.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is your relationship with the subs.
Yep, 100%.
And I knew that he was a good great quality, but I also knew that he was going to be reasonable with everything else.
That's a good point because I know a few other people that are building, like a neighbor that's building. I don't know who he's building with, somebody else, and he's been stopping in frequently at our house, and he's like, I can't believe how fast this is moving.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I can't either. Like we've had very little downtime, And most people will have, a month where they're just waiting, nothing's happening. I'm not saying it will always be that way, like things happen, but it's been a shockingly smooth process. And I know you schedule it all out and you have it on, on a spreadsheet where it's like, but they've been hitting that really good, the subs.
I just want to make it clear. Our only hiccup was the homeowner's choice of a heat pump.
Yeah. That was on me.
Well, it's just scheduling is hard, man. Trying to get everybody in line, because if one thing happens, it pushes everybody else back.
Yes.
It does, and
that's tough.
And the thing people don't think about is when you push a framer or a sider or even any sub, you push them a week, they're going to jump on another project. And
They
then,
have to, right?
And so the shift is not just 1 week in a schedule. Like, you have to think that they may be 3 weeks out. And so you may be pushing your schedules 3 weeks out instead of 2 days. Mm-hmm. And so to keep your schedule tracking is super important to timelines. I mean, when you pull out a construction loan, you're paying interest on that. That's money out of your pocket. There's so many aspects to keeping a schedule when it comes to reputation, paying interest on that construction loan, the schedule itself. It's a huge deal. And then your subs also know if you do it time after time, they're like, oh, Spencer's always 2 weeks late. Let's go ahead and fit into a project. Mm. He's never on time. The sub remembers. And so when you keep your schedule on point, the subs remember, the homeowners remember, your bank account remembers, everybody remembers.
I just thought of something else. I feel like I'm tooting your horn too much. You're welcome.
You stop kicking my foot.
Yeah. Are you guys playing footsie?
That's not a kick.
There's a line.
That's a caress.
It's a line.
Don't cross the line.
Like
Don't cross the line.
So you forget that John's a meathead. That's a
I know,
caress.
dude, he's sitting like this underneath the table. Oh, God.
And I heard one of your subs telling another sub about this. So on the wall, and maybe other people do this, I don't know, but it's impressive. You like for the cabinets, you have a picture of the cabinets, how they're supposed to be taped to the wall. The floor plan taped to the wall, showing where the flooring is going and where the tile is going. So there's no confusion, right? And I heard one of the flooring guy was telling somebody else. He's like, "Oh, Spencer always tapes these to the wall. So if you ever have a question, just come and find it, and now you know exactly what's going where." And I was like, "It's freaking genius."
Do you know why I do that? Experience, right?
Yeah, you learned, huh?
Do you know how many times early on, like years and years ago, where the sub was like, "I didn't know." Like you get in there like, "Hey, you received that email." Yeah, but I don't have it in front of me. I don't know. And so I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to remove that excuse. I'm going to make it crystal clear your expectations. I'm going to print off your appliances, your electrical, your lighting, your tile, your flooring, your cabinetry, everything. And I'm going to tape it in each respective room so that if you tell me you didn't know, I'm going to point at the wall and I'm going to say, how did you not fucking know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't had a problem since.
I believe that.
And they don't even call me anymore because they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep. They know it's there.
Yeah.
It's freaking genius.
Yeah. It's worked out.
Yep. Smart move. Okay. So that's caught up on. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Canada. I know you wanted to touch on Canada.
Yeah, we should.
Yep.
Huge.
So we have been getting a ton of calls from people from Canada that are looking to move here, and quite a few of them wanting to build. Yeah.
We had a Canadian in our office yesterday.
I just want to mention we're hitting an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's fine. No, we're an hour and 12.
Okay, so you've had too much Pendleton.
Oh yeah, you were late. You were late. That's why it's an hour and 12.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
Dave was like, so yeah, Canada's a big deal right now. Don't worry if you're local and you're like, oh, I don't know about Canada. The people that are calling us from Canada are just like us here in North Idaho. There's a lot of good conservative people up there that
Not
are
all
just
people.
tired of the crap. Right.
Good God, the people that are coming down here from Canada are having
Awesome.
conversations like, I have no freedoms.
Yeah.
I can't get in a medical office.
Yeah.
I can't carry a gun. I'm totally isolated. They hate it.
Do you know the funny part about this conversation is I stepped out of construction for about a year just to do project management for a Canadian company. My project administrator was a Canadian, and he was out of nowhere started texting me today about how bad he wants to move down here.
You know any good realtors?
Nope.
Do you know anybody asking to move to Canada right now?
Nope.
You know what? But some
Goodness.
of these people that would like to live under a socialist regime, like I think they should be allowed to. Like, we will trade you.
You know what?
One
I would
for
love
one.
to live under a socialist regime as well. If I didn't want to go to work, if I wanted to sit on my ass,
true.
wanted people to hand me things, I would want to work underneath that regime as well.
You're right.
You know,
can't
you're onto
totally
something.
blame
That'd be a great trade.
Yeah.
They should have a
Right,
sign-up program like signing up for war.
Yes.
Like, hey, here's a sign-up. You want to trade? There's a family of 5. You're a family of 5. Apples to apples, the swap.
We've talked about that,
genius.
dude. We will trade you people.
Yeah.
100%.
You
Absolutely.
work up in the oil fields of Alberta. Let's go. Come on. We want you.
Yeah.
You know how to work hard.
People that are willing to work, man.
You can own
Yeah.
guns here.
Yeah.
You're a millwright here in the United States, and you're of that frame of mind. There's so many mills up top.
They'll love you up there.
Go.
You can pay 80% in taxes or whatever
Yeah,
they pay.
it's 40. Maybe
No,
50,
it's higher.
50 or 60.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Canadians wanting to build. Any restrictions on that?
I met with 2 Canadians just this week, and the only restrictions are, which I'm not versed in. So honestly, I would take feedback. If I don't know, I will reach out. But they have to, 1, gain citizenship.
Yes.
I didn't know this because I've never left our country, but they have to pay an exit tax. So it sounds like the one Canadian that asked us to build as recent of this week. They have a $3 million house. They're looking to sell it. There's a 40% exchange rate that they are willing to opt out of just to get the hell out of Canada.
That says everything.
I don't follow their politics. I'm sorry, I don't
It's
know anything
bad.
about it, but it sounds like it's very bad.
Bad.
Can I bring something up real quick? So you've never left the country?
Well, no, sorry, I've never moved out of the country. I have left the country.
Oh, yeah, we know you haven't moved out of the country.
Yes. So
Where'd you go?
that's-
Where'd you go?
So
Cancun.
So
You've been to Cancun. That is it, isn't
he
it?
hasn't.
No, I've been to Canada too.
Oh, really? Where at?
All right.
Anyway, so
He's like, you're supposed to have my back, bro.
I think there's a story about that, isn't there?
there is. We've already talked about it.
Okay,
we talked
just
about it on the
checking.
first podcast.
Was whiskey involved?
Large exchange rates, but
Yeah.
they're literally fleeing politics just to get a little part of America, and I respect that. I don't really care what your political view is. If we mesh, we'll build for you. If we don't, I'm sorry, we'll encourage you to go a different direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
You should.
It's pretty simple.
Yep, I agree. And we had talked. Eric and I think it was Eric and I did a video about Canadians moving here, and there was some confusion on can they buy land here, and the answer is yes. I think there may be some restrictions on really large tracts of land, and I think the purpose behind that, in Idaho specifically, I think the purpose behind that is to keep China from coming in and buying our land. That's the overall theme. But if you're coming in to buy, 5, 10, I don't know what the limit is, but you're good. You can do it as long as you have citizenship. Yes. I also want to talk about VA loans because that question has come up. Can you build with a VA loan?
Great question. I bet I've been asked 10 times in the last 5 days.
Yep.
Yes, you can. They now have land construction VA loans. However, they have a limit of $1 million.
Okay.
There are additional, I'm not a banker, but there are additional VA loans that you can buy if it's pre-existing that can exceed that. We can also exceed that with the build if you prefer, but they will only lend up to $1 million. If it is a land construction VA loan, interest rates obviously change.
So if you went over $1 million, you just have to make up the rest in cash.
Correct. Yeah.
Doable. And I know if you have more questions on that, Raina over at Loan Depot would be our go-to. She's
Yes.
rock solid.
She's
on VA
very
loans.
phenomenal
good.
with it.
Raina and Ivan are fantastic.
They actually just came out. I think they were number 2 in the nation for VA loans.
Yes.
That's crazy.
They're-
So they
yeah,
know
they're
what
awesome.
they're doing.
They're not just good at what they do; they're fantastic humans.
Yeah, they're just down to earth.
Yep.
Actually, we all use them. They're good.
Yep. That's all the questions I had. You guys have any more topics that you want to jump into? Anything burning? What's the outlook? What's the next year like for you guys?
It's too hard to tell. You guys, because of your podcast, because of your connections, because of I think collaborative efforts, the build meetings they're 12 a week. We're trying to manage these sites. We're also trying to manage these build meetings for you guys for prospective clients, which are great. Keep bringing them in. We love it. It's going to be a busy year.
So let's do this. Let's honestly, a call to action. If you're watching this and you're considering building, and I don't think you guys are against this, I'll put you on the spot right now, is, when we have clients and we always say, whether you're moving, 12 days from now or 12 months from now, give us a call and talk to us. We have no problem jumping on a video chat with you, a FaceTime, anything else. And if you're interested in learning about the build process, it may or may not be right for you, but if you want to know, I'd encourage them to call I'll get on FaceTime, set up a Zoom. You can talk with all of us. We're happy to walk you through that process and see if it's going to work.
Please
and
do.
ultimately see if it's going to be the right thing for you guys to do. And then if it is, then we can talk about the steps you'd have to take. So don't hesitate. There's no sales pitch here. Truthfully, being able to get in front of people and just talk to them. If anything is reps. We always talked about that being cops, right? Like you get reps.
Yes.
And being able to talk to people and explain the process, the building process, the draws, picking out a piece of land, the whole thing is good for every single one of us. Why are you smirking at me, dude? I can't even have a conversation. Is this him or is this me?
It's Seth.
Okay. Anyways, so don't hesitate. Give us a call. We're happy to jump on Zoom with you. It is us that's going to be jumping on Zoom, probably me and Jon. Happy to talk to you about the whole process so you can get an idea whether or not financially it works, whether or not it's a dream for you, whether or not we can find the right land, and just get to meet these guys and know their whole process.
They don't let me and Spencer on the calls.
No. It's these two. Him and I be behind the scene workers. I'm gonna toot me and Jon's horn real quick.
Toot away.
I'm gonna toot real quick.
Toot
It's
it.
an experience we had this week that I'm proud of. Eric Boardman had some clients this week, and they were
once.
We're excited that Eric got clients.
they were anti-build because they had a really shitty build experience in the past.
Yeah.
And Jon just happened to be in the office, and he overheard it, and he's like, "Go visit one of our builds. Go visit Seth's house. Pick it apart." And she's a structural engineer or something of the sorts. And Jon went to her and said, "Go pick it apart. If you can find something, let us know." And Eric took them there right after their meeting, and they went. And Jon, how'd it go?
Needless to say, she's going to build with us in April.
She didn't like my wall. She didn't like my wall texture, though, did she? She doesn't
No,
like
she did
imperfect
not
smooth.
like the wall texture.
And
Good.
so, but
She did not like imperfect smooth.
you know, I've heard that a couple times lately. Imperfect smooth. So it went from skip smear to being the most popular to imperfect smooth. And just so you know, level 5 is cool, but you're going to pay for it.
Yep.
And
It's not that
The
cool.
smoother, the more expensive for sure.
yeah, it's more expensive. We'll do it, and it seems based off the last couple weeks with people's feedback coming from out of town, they want level 5. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. But just remember, let us know on the front end so we can charge accordingly.
Yeah.
I'm not charging you. The drywall company is.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's cool. But please give us a call because we'll sit down and we'll talk to you and we'll give you the whole rundown of what these guys do. And you can ask all the questions you want. So I think that's important.
Absolutely. Ask whatever you want. It's not a waste of time. We want you to be informed. We want you to build your dream home, and we want to be your guys.
You guys, hands down, you have to trust your builder and know
Yep.
that we have your back.
It's everything.
Let me give a shout out to North Idaho Experience Realty, though,
Oh,
because we haven't done that yet.
thanks.
Thank you.
We work one-on-one with these guys, separate companies, independent, but we watch them work on the daily. And it is such a well-oiled machine and gelled team. They all work together, and they got each other's backs. And they're as honest as the day is long. Otherwise, me and Jon would not be here in this podcast. We would not have branded with them. They're awesome humans.
Cool. We
Like
appreciate that, man.
to the core.
Are you crying right now?
You know, I have cried before when I've talked about you guys,
Oh.
but
I love
You
it.
didn't. You forgot to mention how handsome and muscular.
What else, dude? What else?
Boardman, Eric Boardman has the sexiest voice known to man. He's like the James Earl Jones
all
of
know
today.
Bob got that.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, it's a great team.
We appreciate that,
Thank
man.
you guys.
It's going to be good. Thank you guys for watching.
Later.
Thank you.